Live from Detroit, Michigan, and this is the Honestly Sis podcast, Pop Culture Therapy Edition.
I became an artist, and thank God I did, because we are the only profession that celebrates what it means to live a life.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever this podcast may find you. I hope that it finds you in great spirits. Welcome to our first ever pop culture therapy section, where we celebrate the showrunners who create stories that entertain us and also help us heal. I am your host, Honest Am, and the guide of this here segment. I am not a therapist. I am just going to play one on this podcast. And today we are going to be breaking down Harlem season 1. And one thing I love to do outside of writing and pulling tarot cards is watch TV shows and dig entirely way too deep into them. So if you are new here, this series started on my YouTube channel as a playlist where I break down TV and film through a healing lens. Pop culture therapy isn't just about what's happening on the screen. It is about what it is bringing up to us. If you are familiar with me, or if you're back from the old school days of Honestly Sis, you know that Dear Showrunners was a podcast that I had with my roomie, Joe, where we talked about everything TV and pop culture. I am bringing that right on back here and into this series because the whole intention of Honestly Sis, the podcast, is to bring my full self. And so if you love what you hear here, I just implore you to go explore our Honestly Sis YouTube page, the playlist. We have all of the seasons for Harlem, the start of the P-Valley breakdown. I will admit it's not the same format, but if you enjoy this, I think you will still get something from it. I did cover Next Level Chef. I'm going to explain at the end of the episode the TV series that we have on the docket, okay? Today, I'm going to give you guys just a little snippet of our conversation that we had over on YouTube about season 1 of Harlem. What you're going to hear about the themes of this series. And I'm also going to give you my overall thesis on what I think Tracy is trying to tell us and trying to get us to explore within ourselves. And so some of the themes that we're going to talk about is decentering men. We're going to talk about Saturn returns, and we're going to talk about the strong Black woman stereotype and whether it does more harm than good for us. And then last but not least, we are going to end it really diving deep on this idea of happily ever after. Is it a fairy tale, a myth, or a possibility? But I will go ahead and give you my hot take for this topic is that I do believe that you can have it all if you are willing to be vulnerable enough to let people know it and ambitious enough to go for it. Okay, so why don't you go ahead, grab you a cup of tea or your favorite matcha or iced coffee, get you a little notepad, maybe light an incense, because this is definitely an episode where you are going to want to take some notes. Today we're talking about Amazon's Prime season 1 Harlem. This is a TV show about 4 best friends, all taking place in Harlem, New York. It's starring Megan Good. The creator of this series is Tracy Oliver. Her credits include Awkward Black Girl series. She also is known for The First Wives Club, which was a BET series. You can also watch that on Netflix. If you're interested in watching this, it's actually a very good series. I watched the first one, the first and second season. I don't think I watched the last season. So that's just a reminder for me to go back and do that. But as you can see, Tracy really loves to work with Black women, Black friend groups. Another show that she did was Girl Trip. We all know about Girl Trip, and there's rumors that Girl Trip 2 is underway. And then she also wrote The Blackening, which is just about a group of friends going up north, and they find this board game called The Blackening. These are some of Tracy Oliver's credits, just in case you're interested in learning more about her work. So let's go ahead and get into the themes of season one of Harlem. We open up this season and the pilot episode, which to me is kind of like the thesis that Tracy is introducing to us. She talks about the Masuka. I believe I'm saying that right. Masuka women are a group of women who chooses who they want to be married to. They observe these things called walking marriages, and they can decide at any given moment they don't want to be with that person no more, or if that person is just, they're not really feeling that person, they can walk away. Tracy is opening up this season asking us how much different would women lives be if they decentered men and if they completely focused on their own pleasure and their own convenience, which I think is also like a very big theme that is going on right now. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to decenter men, how to stop making men such the such the focus of their lives. And I just love that Harlem opened this up. Next up is the Saturn Returns. Saturn Returns. One thing that I really loved about Harlem this season is that they used a lot of terms that have become very popular in the last, 5 to 10 years. And so, like Saturn Return, Winter Solstice, cuffing season. It had all of these things that we hear a lot about, but Tracy really took the time to dive deep into those themes. And so, when we go into the Saturn Return theme, one thing that she opened up the episode and said, if you do not learn from your past, you are bound to repeat it. But then Camille counters that by saying, with that type of thought process, we're saying that it is inherently bad to repeat the bad. And I believe that Tracy is asking us as the audience, do we believe that? Do we believe that you repeating history within your love life, within, just even in the community, is that necessarily a bad thing? Or is it positive if you're able to, learn from the past, you repeat it, but you do something different? I think that's really what the whole purpose of the Saturn return is. Next, we discovered the theme of strong Black women. This was like actually one of my favorite episodes. And it talked about how, sometimes us women, especially Black women, we could try to be so strong and so feel like we have it together to the point that we lose our own humanity in the process. And so I really love the episode. I want to say it was episode 7, where Tracy really not really that trope of a strong Black woman and showed how it can actually be a detriment to us. Some of those questions that I came up with in that episode was, what happens when the strong Black woman is hurt? Who Was Angie in the wrong for not wanting to apologize to the Kate lady? Because that also came up, because this woman was showing her white tears, and it's like, do that make us less strong when we're apologizing to people? And then secrets, like that was a very, very big part. We realized by the end of the season, even though this friend group was presented to us as, just as one unit, we learned later on that each lady have their own secrets that they're not necessarily telling their friend group, and how that secret can shape your life in the end. And then last but not least, fairy tale endings. Are they real? Are they possible? I really do believe that this whole series was exploring that idea of, if women take control of their lives, if women take control of their own pleasure and their own convenience, if they decenter man, are we still entitled to that fairy tale ending? Or is it just that, a fairy tale? All right, my favorite episodes of the season's cuffing season, aka big nigga season. I really love this episode because it not only explored the themes of cuffing, but it also talked about how, even though we look at cuffing season as a relatively new thing in ancient cultures and in civilization, cuffing season or the human mating season has been a really big thing. We all know that there's a ton of people who are born during August and September, and that 9 times out of 10 happen because they're pregnant. Their mom was pregnant during those cold winter months, and so I loved cuffing season. It was very funny, just seeing like Angie trying to particularly get a big dude, and all of the big niggas are gone. So I love that so much. My other favorite episode was, of course, I talked about this already, the Strong Black Woman episode. I love this so much because not only were we able to see Ty try to, stay strong and stay on top of it, even though she was clearly in pain, I also loved how we had that beautiful contrast of Angie, who is just, the definition of a strong Black woman, her being in this theater environment and, her keeping it real basically got her in trouble, and she had to apologize to this white woman, and she didn't feel like that white one, none of us feel like that white woman deserved an apology, but it does bring up the question, apologizing, does that make you less strong, or does that make you less of a a strong Black woman? Are you not keeping it real if you have to do that? And then my other favorite episode was 5 years ago. The 5 years ago episode, I'm sorry, y'all probably hear me going through my pages, but it was episode 8. And I really feel like this episode was giving us all of the questions that were being asked from episode 1 through 7. And we really got to see where these characters was coming from, what they're dealing with, how did they get in their current position. And then hopefully from episode 9 and 10, and then going into season 2, we'll see how they navigate out of it. So let's go ahead and get into the story break by characters. So first up, we have our main character, Camille. And Camille's storyline is broken up into two. The way that I look at Camille's story is broken up in two paths. It's her career path, and then of course it's also her love life as well. And so just discovering her career path, we meet Camille. She seems like she has it together. I thought she was a professor, but come to find out she's an adjunct who has been working at Columbia. She has a very popular class. She had just recently received a tenure position at some other university. I think it was in North Dakota or some random place. But she did receive an offer. And the head of her department told her, don't worry about it. You don't want to be in North Dakota. This is where you want to be. I'm going to, get the money together to fight for you to have a raise, and for you to have a raise, and for you to get this tenure position. And so we open up this season with Camille supposedly everything working out, her about to get this tenure position, her job is going to finally commit, and then maybe she can focus on her love life. But what ends up happening is the head of the department and her mentor ends up getting fired over some woke scandal. And it leaves Camille in this place where she's questioning, is Columbia going to be able to be her happily ever after, or will she have to pivot? Enter Dr. Pruitt. Dr. Pruitt, aka Whoopi Goldberg, she comes into it. She's clearly a very esteemed professor, very accomplished. And because she's also a Black woman, Camille kind of automatically comes in with this overly familiar attitude where she's just like, you know what I'm saying, sister? And I think she just assumes that she's going to have this foot in the door because Dr. Pruitt is a Black woman. But we see time and time, well, we see for their first interaction that Dr. Pruitt not only knows about Camille, but she also mentioned hearing about Camille's reputation. And so we see right off the bat that Dr. Pruitt is coming in with her own biases, her own little kind of, her own opinion of Camille. And so Camille has to rise above that. And the beautiful thing is that Dr. Pruitt gives her give her several chances to try to change her opinion. But throughout the season, we realize that, because of her personal life, Camille is just really not able to focus. And examples of this is when Dr. Pruitt told her, she asked her to come sit on a panel. And they sat on a panel, and Camille goes off on this random tangent about her love life. And, of course, Dr. Pruitt didn't like it. And she talked about boundaries, how boundaries was very important to her. And she tells Camille, we're going to talk about this. Come to my office, 9:00 in the morning. And Camille misses the appointment. But once again, because she misses the appointment, now she has to get the second tier job for this research position. So now Camille has to work under her student. And because Camille has to work under her student or somebody who she feels like just is not on her level, she's not respecting the woman. And actually, it ends up putting more and more of a bad taste in Dr. Pruitt's mouth. I want to say it was another example. She missed that meeting. it was like two or three things where Dr. Pruitt was trying to give Camille the benefit of the doubt, and Camille just kept dropping the ball, and she kept dropping the ball, and then eventually Dr. Pruitt started to Camille heard about Dr. Pruitt looking for other professors, starting to interview for the position. This finally gets Camille's wheels turning, saying, hey, maybe I should, show her my resume, let her know how proud, let her know that I'm the best person for this position. And when she does that, Dr. Pruitt tell her point blank period, your resume is lacking. She tells her that you may be very big on social media, but you're only basically she said you may be very big on social media, but you're lacking in academia. You don't have a PhD, or I think she do has her PhD, but she's just saying that there, because Camille is a black woman, there's other stats that she wished that she had on her resume. And basically, Dr. Pruitt says that you're not the top candidate, and I would not recommend you for this position. And so Camille is sent in a tailspin because Dr. Pruitt, towards the end of the season, she ends up hiring a very highly qualified African. And Camille is, because this person is not some white woman or some white man, she really has to, she felt like it was worse, and she has to deal with the fact that she is not quote unquote good enough. And I don't think that it's not that she's not good enough, but I think, to me, even though Camille is supposed to be presented as this A type woman who has her shit together, I mean, from the beginning of the season, she just seemed like she was all over the place. And so, even though Camille may have this path or what she dreams of her life being, I wonder if she, if her leaving in has left her unfocused on her career path, and that's why she's in a position that she's in. I guess we'll have to explore that in season 2. Next up, talking about Camille love life. That I told you it was in 2 parts. When we first meet Camille, not only is, she kind of struggling in this job, talking about her job is not committing, but Camille is having sex with a student. Now, she did do the right thing and tell the guy, I can't do this. You, because you are technically a student, you aren't enrolled in my class. This is a conflict of interest. She does all of those things, but in the end, she ends up having sex with him. And I brought this up because I just feel like somebody who, again, it goes back to that thing where we're saying that Camille is this super A type woman. She got her shit together, but it's like she's sleeping with a student. And I just don't feel like someone who has those type of qualifications or who is that put together would even be putting herself in that position. But we know that she ended up messing with the student because she was trying to tap into the Moism women or whatever, like trying to tap into those women. But I just think, I don't know. When we meet Camille, she's all over the place. Next, Camille end up running into Ian, which is her ex of however many years. She was about to go move to Paris with this guy, and she runs into him. At first, she wasn't going to speak to him, and then eventually eventually they do end up running into each other, and she finds out that he's engaged. So now Camille is dealing with this fact that not only did the career path that she put out for herself is no longer working out how she wanted it to be, but she also is realizing that this guy that she loved has moved on. And I think for Camille, she has equated, and I was going to wait to talk about this in the later themes, but I do feel like Camille has equated, since she did decide to leave Ian instead of going to Paris, I think in her mind, she decided that her career path is going to be the path to her happily ever after. And maybe she put a lot of energy into it, put a lot of focus into increasing her social media presence, but she realized over time that when Dr. Pruitt comes in, Dr. Pruitt doesn't, accept her for this job offer. Now she has to deal with this reality that, maybe this plan that I created for my life is not working. Another very minor theme is that Camille is constantly missing her therapy appointments. And so it's like, for somebody who has so much going on and who's supposed to be so put together, it's like she's dropping the ball on her work front. Her love life is not really together. And then she's not necessarily doing the things to take care of herself. And so for me, I'm mentally wondering what's going on with Camille, and why is she so scattered? Why is she all over the place? Or is this how she's always been? Nonetheless, she goes to this at the panel that Dr. Pruitt invites her to, she meets this guy named Jameson. They hit it off. He seemingly bump into her at a Red Lobster. Come to find out the next morning after they have this amazing date, come to find out this nigga literally stalked her social media timeline and curated this perfect date. And it brought up the question, like, is it necessarily stalking if you look at somebody's social media profile before you date them? Or is it just doing your due diligence to make sure that you can have a great first date? Because like Jameson says, great dates don't just happen. So she meets Jameson, and I feel like, even though like she keeps saying Jameson is, her dream guy, I don't really buy it. I think that because she knows that Ian is engaged, and because her love life is lacking, and Jameson seems like a good, on paper person, that she just immediately jumps into this relationship with him. And so now she's in a relationship with Jameson, but then she's still secretly seeing Ian. She runs into Ian mom, and Ian moms invite her to a dinner. At the dinner, she sees Ian, they kiss, but then he tells her that they're engaged. Finally, because Dr. Pruitt says that all she has is social media content, she wants to start getting into activism, start doing more activism. She goes and boycott this new restaurant that is coming out, and come to find out that it is Ian restaurant. Ian is kind of mad at her, and then he asks her, after they get over their, madness at each other, he asks her, well, what can I do to he's really mad that the neighborhood is boycotting the restaurant, because he's like, I'm a black chef. I'm bringing this back to Harlem. Like, why are you boycotting my shit? And basically Camille tells him, like, because you're gentrifying it. She like, maybe put up some art from some local artists and all of this stuff. And because she gives him this idea, Ian then in turn says, well, I'm going to give you this job where you help me buy some art for the restaurant. And so her and Ian has this date, not even a date, but they have this appointment set up because Ian bought in his business partner, where they're supposed to go to the Harlem Museum, look at some art, buy some art for the restaurant. But Camille is just so distracted because she lied to Jameson about her talking to her ex and what she's doing, and she can't really focus on what's going on. And so because she can't really focus on what's going on, and all of them are kind of scattered, they end up getting into the wrong Uber. They get robbed at this robbery when they at gunpoint. And they think they're going to quote unquote die. Again, not buying it. Tracy, you could have did a little bit better on that one. We're going to let you go. But I get why you had to kind of put them in this position where they had to tell each other their truth. Ian admits that he's still in love with her, which of course makes Camille realize that she still's in love with him. After that, Jameson, because Dr. Pruitt has went ahead and hired somebody else, Jameson says, you know what, fuck it. Why don't you just come to Chicago with me and we can, be together? And Camille again says, like, I have this tendency of men trying to take me out of Harlem. And we end the season with her confessing to Ian that she's still in love with him, because we'll get to Quinn's storyline. But long story short, she ends up at the venue where Ian is having his rehearsal dinner. They get into a little argument. He admits that he was about to buy a ring from her. She didn't know about the ring, because when we have our 5-year episode, our 5 years ago episode, we learned that Camille and Ian was off to go to Paris, and they were really excited about it. They, even when her mentor, the head of the department, was telling her, don't do it, Camille was dead set on doing it. But when they get to the airport and Ian passport is expires, it triggers this whole thing. It triggers up so many things about Camille past, and she just questions like if she's doing the right thing. She feel like she's being like her mom, and then eventually she tells Ian that she can't do it, and so that's how they end up breaking up. And the funny thing is, let me take one step back, is when they were in the airport and at the passport place, and they were saying how much it would cost to get the passport done, all of Ian's credit cards was like maxed out. And she like, what the hell you've been spending? And she's like, you know what, never mind, I'm just going to take care of it. And so we get from here that Camille is used to being someone that is very in charge, somebody who's being responsible for the family. And at that point, she was just tired of it. And she was like, what am I doing? I'm with this guy who can't even be responsible enough to know you can't leave the country for, with an expired passport, without a visa. And just realizing like maybe I'm making a big mistake. And so that's why she doesn't go to Paris with Ian, which honestly it makes sense. It also, she was supposed to meet up with her mom. Her mom never came. I'm so curious who her mom is and like what's that backstory. But she doesn't end up going. And so her and Ian, Ian finds her at the venue. She sees like all of this stuff and she's really hurt. She's really upset. And Ian tells her, like, this was supposed to be you. I had bought a ring. I had did all of this stuff. And she was like, you still gonna marry this woman, like, even though you know you're still in love with me? And he's like, yeah, because I'm a fucking adult. And anyway, even way, the episode in the series end with her and Ian kissing, and Ian's fiance sees the whole thing. And so of course, season 2 is going to be all about whether her and Ian actually gets together. And also, we're trying to figure out what is she going to do about her career path. Moving on to Ty's story. So we meet Ty, and she's basically got her shit together. Actually, that's one thing that I really love about this series. All of the women, in their own way, shape, or form, have their shit together. But here with Ty, she is the creator of the first queer dating app. But when we meet her, the women are challenging her to, you need to date different type of women. They say that she tends to date easy women. And so this whole first season is exploring, why is Ty only dating a certain type of women. And so she started the season off trying to date somebody outside of her comfort zone. She dated another mass presenting woman who basically treated her like her. Then she said, oh no, this is why I don't do this. Goes to the gay club, picks up a white girl to sleep with, and picks up a white girl to sleep with. They have a great night. The white girl eats her leftovers that she's been looking forward to, which I know what that's like don't eat my goddamn food. And come to find out, she meets this, girl. In the process of that, Ty is so excited about this Forbes interview. So y'all know where this is going on. The Forbes interview comes up, and the white girl that ate her leftovers end up being a journalist who is writing the story for her. And the first thing that the journalist, or the white girl, I should have got her name. What's her name? Abby. I just made that up. Yeah, I just made up a girl name. Hold on, let me see. I think I was just calling her white girl the whole time. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, white girl. But anyway, so the first thing that the white girl says is like, do you only date black women? And basically saying that Ty is being discriminatory and challenges Ty to, basically do more. And so Ty takes the girl up on an offer, and they actually go out on a date. They actually go on a date, get to know each other. They're having a great time. Things are seemingly going well until Ty notices, as they're going out on a date, black women looking at her and giving her that look, and she automatically feels like a sellout for dating this white girl, and she breaks things off. And so we learn that even though Ty is a super accomplished woman who is, doing things in this tech industry, there is still something about her that is not committing with other women. Also, she seems to really care about what other people think. So then, as all of this is going on, Ty is starting to have some back pain. But because of the pain that she has, and she's also getting ready for South by Southwest, she's ignoring the pain. She's saying it's not that big of a deal. She'll deal with it later. She ends up passing out on the subway with Quinn and goes to the emergency room, only for the doctor to say that she has low blood sugar. And when they talk about how she's still in pain, the doctor says that she wants a drug, basically. And this has happened to me before. I remember going to the emergency room and my stomach was just hurting, like so bad. My stomach was hurting for like 2 days. And at the time, I thought, and this is something for somebody, because you do not go trying to like diagnose yourself. But at the time, I thought that the reason why I was feeling all of this pain was because I had food poisoning, because I had just ate like some salmon or something that had been sitting out. And I was like, oh, well, maybe it was really bad salmon. And so I go to the emergency room, and the doctor was just like, oh, you probably have food poisoning. And then he started asking me about like my recreational activities. And then he's like, oh, you may not have food poisoning, you may have a weed overdose. Basically, like, did not check me, did not run any tests, gave me like a couple of pills, and basically sent me on my way. And come to find out, I was at home that whole weekend, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't eat. And then finally, I just was like, something isn't right. And I went to a urgent care. And at that point, I couldn't even like sit up straight. Like I was walking in bent over, and they sent me to the emergency room straight away. Like I think she may have did two tests to me. She tried to get me to sit up straight, and I screamed, and she's like, you need to go to the emergency room. Go to the emergency room. Come to find out, my appendix was busted. And they literally said that if I would have waited another 30 minutes, even not even a 30 minutes, they was like, if I did not get into the emergency room when I got into the emergency room, I could have went into cardiac arrest. And so these guys, I love that Tracy put that in there, and she put it as like this little quick, cute little thing, kind of like Insecure, addressing topics that are really, that are really important to the Black community, but not going so deep into them. But I, to this day, I wish. And then even when that happened, I was in the hospital for a whole month, had complications in my surgery. It was just the worst experience of my life. And it was all because doctors were being incompetent and not actually testing me and making sure that I was okay. And that's what ended up happening to Ty. And so Ty ends up thinking that it is just a matter of her, having low blood sugar. And so she's planning on going to her south to southwest. She pulls up to the airport, pass out again, and has to have emergency surgery because she has thyroids and a busted cyst, I want to say, on her ovaries. And because all of this happens, she ends up they end up telling her that she may have to have a hysterectomy, so saying that she cannot have children. And they also call her emergency contact, who ends up being dun 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 a secret goddamn husband. And so we learn, what I love so much about Ty's story is that we start off this series of not really understanding Ty. We realize that she has it all going on in her career, but clearly something is missing in her love life. And we learned from the 5 years ago why it's missing, because she got in a relationship with a woman before where she was with her for a year, and the woman asked her to move in. And when she finally admitted to the woman that, hey, I can't start something new because I haven't really closed a chapter on my old life. And she admits to the woman that, I ran away from my husband. I got married to this guy. He was so sweet. He was so nice. So I decided to get married to him because she was living in the South and she wanted to get away from her family. And she realizes that, more and more, this guy, he's ready to settle down and have kids and go off for there. But deep down, she likes women. And so she just packed her bag and left in the middle of the night, didn't give him any phone number, any way to contact her. And just came to New York and started a whole new life. And so the woman said, which any person would say, well, how would I know that you're not just going to wake up one day and decide that you're in the wrong life again? And so the woman ended up breaking up with her. And because she broke up with her, Ty is now afraid to get close with women because she know eventually she will have to have that conversation. And instead of having that conversation, or instead of putting herself in that position, she decided to have these little, meaningless sex escapades. But deep down inside, she really not happy, because one thing that Brandon said towards the end is like, yeah, you came here to live this new life, but at what cost? Like, you don't have, your paperwork wasn't updated, so it was going to your old husband. You only have a handful of friends. It's like, what is this life that you're quote unquote living? And I think what Tracy is really trying to show us is how, when you have these secrets, you think that it's just a secret for you, but that secret ends up shaping your whole existence. And so now Ty can't even have the true life that she wants to have because, again, going back to that Saturn returns, and that's really where the episode where Ty's storyline started, because her cousin, the palm reader, said, hey, Saturn return is coming back. You have a big mistake from your past that is about to come back and bite you in the ass. And so that is literally what this whole season was setting up for. And so you see like Ty still, even towards the end when her husband comes, she lied to the women about him signing the divorce papers and just leaving. Meanwhile, he's still in the guest room trying to talk to her, and she won't talk to him. She just will not have a conversation. And because she refused to have a conversation, because she refused to be vulnerable and just talk to him and just admit that what she did was fucked up, she's being all competitive and she think he's here for the money. And because she approached him so aggressively and like he was only there for money, in the end, he said, I'm going to show you about the money. And so we can see that Ty is about to go through this big divorce settlement where potentially she could lose half of her money just because she didn't want to have a conversation. And so the Ty storyline was just so deep. I just love when it just really all started clicking for me, and how these secrets just can stop us from living our best life. Angie, that's my baby. I love me some Angie. I wish that I was Angie. So Angie's storyline is actually really straightforward. We meet Angie. She's sleeping on the couch. She don't want to have a job because she's this quote unquote artist, because she's a quote unquote star. But she ends up having this interaction with the Uber driver where they are bonding about art and how you don't need to have a 9 to 5 because fuck the man and all of that stuff. And come to find out, his car was his house. And so this was a big wake up call. And Angie ends up accepting the Get Out the Musical play. And so Get Out the Musical is where Angie spends majority of season one. She goes from being like, this is a whack stage play, it really don't mean anything, to actually really enjoying it, to meeting a little boo. And then so she ended up getting upgraded to an actual speaking role where she got to say no 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 no. Then everything is going well. I talked a little bit about how Angie during the Get Out the Musical, there's a white girl, of course, who is just, being a white girl and who's trying to make, this majority black production about her. And Angie ends up offending her because the girls just kept saying like, this is so ghetto and it's this. And basically she apologizes to the girl, gets this role, but something ends up happening to stop the Get Out musical. So then Ty, because she sees that Angie is starting to take her acting stuff more seriously, Ty invites her to go to a screening of this new Barry Jenkins, this guy who they're calling the new Barry Jenkins. They go see this movie and it's horrible. And Ty keeping it, I mean, not Ty, Angie keeping it quote unquote real. She asks the director for some questions and basically end up telling him that his movie was whack and that he's a sellout and all of this stuff. And Ty is forced to kind of tell her, like, actually, you know what? If you're saying that this is whack, what do you think your Get Out the Musical is? And she admits that the musical is bad. And because her friends think the musical is bad, now Angie think the musical is bad, and she kind of feels stupid about the whole thing. But she's still going to keep going forward because opening day is coming up. And so they're getting ready for opening day, and they get this beautiful letter in the mail that Jordan Peele asked to read it right before their big Jordan Peele asked for them to read it just before their big performance. And it ends up being a cease and desist. And so now we start off where Angie is so confident that everything is going to work out because 5 years ago she had this big record deal that ends up falling through, and it seemed to have fell through because of her attitude and because of her arrogance. And so Angie had a townhouse, she had a driver, and within not even overnight, within an hour, she ends up losing all of those things, and she has to sleep on she has to sleep on Queen couch and figure out how she's going to become a star again. And so at first we see that she doesn't want to do anything that will take her out of this star status because she really believes that perception is reality. And so her, finally coming to terms with the fact that it's not about having the biggest role in the play or doing the quote unquote big thing. It's really just about being paid to do what you love to do. And I think she was going to be happy with that and just settling with good enough. But then when good enough goes away, we end the season with Angie wondering if she's ever going to become a star at all, or if this is just, if she's ever going to become a star, or if she has, or do she have to start working on her plan B. I actually really love Angie's storyline because like she has so much confidence and she don't have any problem with men or just speaking her mind. But again, during these moments of vulnerability with her bag, with her musical bag, and even with Ty, we see that, even though Angie says that she's confident and she has it going on, deep down inside, she has some insecurities. She has some insecurities. Last but not least, Quinn. I want to just go on the record and say I am a Quinn. And I'm actually, the whole purpose and the whole reason why I actually did this was because of Quinn's story arc and storyline in season 2. I just felt like I've never seen anything like that done on television before, and I was just so excited to explore it. And so Quinn's story, again, a little bit like Angie's, it's very small this season, but it's really setting us up for season 2. And so we meet Quinn. She's a fashion designer. She lives in this beautiful apartment, luxury. She comes from money. Quinn has it together from the outside looking in. Quinn has everything that she could possibly want. But we see that she can also be naive. We can see that she also can be a little bit naive and that she has money issues. She has mommy issues. And so I'm gonna say episode 5. In the 5 years ago episode, which was episode 9, I mean 8. Yeah, in episode 8, the 5 years ago episode, we see that Quinn is actually working in finance at JP Chase. She has the perfect quote unquote boyfriend. Her mom is coming in talking about how she has the perfect job and she's making money. Her mom is like doting on her. And even with her mom doting on her, Quinn still has that same attitude of when her mom is disappointed in her, which to me brings up a flag. And it makes me wonder, what is Quinn's relationship with her mom? Where does this disdain and where does their disconnect really, really stem from? And is that a part of Quinn's dissatisfaction within? Because what we also learned in episode 8, is that Quinn, she was feeling miserable in her job. And Ian, leaving everything, and Camille going to find Ian and following Ian to Paris, she said it made her jealous. And it made her wonder, hey, should I also be going after my dreams? And so she quit this job and decides that she's going to go on this quest to find out what really is going to make her happy. And her mom told her, like, the reason why I was so proud of you, the reason why I was doting on you so much is because you were making your own money. And she explained that the relationship between her and her father, because she has to financially depend on her father, after a while, the loving relationship becomes a resentful relationship. And she told Quinn in episode 8, hey, this same thing is going to happen between me and you if you don't provide for yourself and you keep coming to me for money, or if you think that you're going to use me for money to take care of yourself, it's going to change our relationship. And we realize now from episode 1, this is what happened. Like, her mom told her point blank period, this is not going to be a good thing. And so it makes me wonder, is fashion truly Quinn's passion, or is it just something she stumbled upon? Because when she was talking to her mom, she said she was going to do a doggy gym or a daycare just for dogs or something. So we see that Quinn didn't necessarily have a plan on what she wanted to do to live her passion. She just up and quit her job. And I think that's a privilege that Quinn needs to acknowledge she has because she comes from money. Another thing that's going on with Quinn is she has a lot of love problems, love, aka men problems. To me, I feel like the problem with Quinn is that Quinn feels this hole in her heart, and she does not know how to fill that hole or fill that void to make happiness. And so she felt like, okay, this job is making, she had to bet. Now remember, I'm sorry, y'all. Remember, 5 years ago, she had the perfect job, the perfect man, the perfect relationship with her mom, but something was still not making her happy, right? What was making Quinn sad? And so I feel like what Quinn did was, okay, let me take away the job because this job is making me miserable. That did not bring her automatically happiness. That didn't bring her automatic So maybe she got rid of the husband, maybe she got rid of the fiance or the boyfriend. Okay, so that's not giving me happiness. And so then she started going on this quest for finding, her passion or her hobby. And maybe she stumbled upon fashion and she said, okay, this is going to make me happy. But then we see, even with the store, she's having issues with the store. Rent is going up. She has a hard time keeping customers into the store. Her mom said this from the beginning. It takes a lot of money to start a business, to get a business up and running. Now that the store is starting to cause her issues, so now she's trying to find the happiness in love. And so she's dating all type of men who are not necessarily within her bracket, or not necessarily equally yoked to her, but she's just trying to do anything to find love, because I think deep down inside, Quinn just wants to fill that hole, that void that is in her heart. So then we get to it to where she meets Sean, who is a stripper, and she tries to act like she doesn't want love. She tries to act like, she's only in it for having sex, and that she's only going to use him for sex. But that quickly changes as she have breakfast after her one night stand, and she developed these feelings for Sean. And I don't even know if it's feelings or more so like she just happy to have him in her life, because she finds out that Sean has a kid, and she's like, you know what, Sean kid doesn't like me, and so I'm gonna babysit his kid to get him to like me. But Isabella entered the picture. And Isabella is the person that her mom has taken under her wing and is trying to, get her fashion up to code and all of that good stuff. But Quinn is finding herself, attracted to Isabella, but Isabella is a woman. And so Quinn does the same thing that she did with Sean. She pushes Isabella away at first and tell her, oh, I'm busy. I got all this stuff going on with my store, only to find out, only to in the end realize that, you know what, maybe I am really into Isabella. And so it brings back that point, because remember, she started episode, was it The Secret? Yeah, she started episode 9 talking about how much she loves Sean and she wants this to work and she don't want him to break up with her. And yet she's like, stalking Isabella's social media and going to the bowling alley where Isabella was. And, like she was paying so much attention to Isabella that I was almost like, I hope Sean Kidd don't get hurt, because she wasn't really paying attention to her like that. And so towards the end of this, I don't even know what happened to Sean. Does she break up with Sean? Does she tell him it's not working? All we do know is that she says that she's not going to care about what other people think anymore, and that she's going to try sushi, aka or okra. She's going to try okra for the first time, and she told Isabella she wanted to take her on a date. And that's where we leave the story with Quinn. She's still going back to the store issues. Now, I do want to point out about the store stuff. Quinn gets a notice in the mail saying that her rent is going to increase. And the first thing that Quinn does is not like brainstorm an idea. It's not like, okay, let me, start figuring out how to put my clothes online. No, she immediately just go ask her mom for money. And so it brings this thing to me where it's like, Quinn don't have no hustle to her a little bit. It's like, if this is truly something you love and you truly want to work, why are you not brainstorming and trying to figure out how to make your business become a reality? But I think it's because she has that safety cushion of money that she's just like, well, whatever. I'm just going to ask my mom for money. Her mom's going to cuss at her, make her feel bad, but she's going to give her the money anyway. And so it really takes for Sean to stop by at Ian's mom going away party, and he ends up talking to Myra about, because Myra is like so into Sean, or what's that, Sean? But anyways, Myra is talking to him about how much she likes to be sustainable and all of that stuff. And so Sean says, I know a friend who is super into that. And like, Sean is actually the one who ends up getting Quinn the job for Myra's dress, Ian's fiance's dress. And so it just, again, it's like, to me, I don't think that Queen really cares about fashion like that, because it's like, it's not like she's going above and beyond to make this thing happen. Like other people is pushing it towards her. So it just makes me very excited to see where we're going to end up for season 2. And so I don't know what happened between her and Sean. I actually don't even think that she says that she breaks up with him or anything. If I'm wrong, please drop down in that comment section and let me know. But for me, Quinn's storyline is just all about like filling this void, and she's trying to fill the void through love. She's trying to fill the void through fashion designs and all of that stuff. And I think eventually what's going to end up happening is Quinn is going to have to realize that nothing external is going to fill her up. That really has to come from inside. And so she's going to have to do some deep healing and do some deep reflections to figure out how she even got herself in this position. But Quinn is the storyline that I'm really looking forward to in season 2.
Rainy day, funny that rainy day becomes.
Final takeaways: happily ever after, is it a thing? I really think that, towards our final episode of the season, it was all called Once Upon a Time in Harlem. And it's really asking these questions. She started off by saying, now princesses doesn't even want to be princesses anymore. Is happily ever after a lie? We think about this idea of happily ever after, and I kind of group the women into pairs. Camille and Quinn are trying to get their happily ever after through their jobs, but it's not really working. Where Angie and Ty are trying to get their happily ever after through their dreams. And even though Ty's dream is happening, she's realizing that she needs to have love as well to get the full happily ever after. Whereas Angie is realizing that she can have love, but now she's starting to wonder if she could ever have the career. And so it makes us wonder, is happily ever after possible? And I said that I feel like Tracy is saying that we can be, we can live a life like Masua women where our convenience and our pleasure are number one. But in order to live that type of life and in order to actually have that, you have to take ownership and you have to take accountability of your life. You have to learn from your past mistakes. You can't be avoiding things. And I think if you take accountability for your past mistakes and actually learn from it, then you can get your happily ever after. Last night when I was like writing my notes for this, the thing that kept coming to me was that Kanye line of on that independent shit, traded off a husband and some kids. And the reason why I was thinking about that was because I think at the end of the day, like all women are like that. Like, I feel like it's silly for anybody to believe that if you get, the perfect man or a perfect job, that it's going to give you a happily ever after. No. I don't think you can have either or. I do believe that the only way to have a truly happily ever after life and to only have a truly fulfilling life is you have to be fulfilled in your career and you have to also be fulfilled in your love life. Because if you look at man's low law, it says in that pyramid that the top of our needs are, feeling secure and belonging and all of those things. And so I think it's a silly concept for the world to feel like, oh, as a woman, you either have to be career driven or you have to be love driven. I think as a society, we have to get to the place where realizing that in order to have a successful relationship is going to take two whole people coming together to make one, to make this thing a reality. And I think if you can approach it that way, then things would be so much different. I think if we can learn from the issues of Camille and Quinn, I would say Camille should have just sat down and had a conversation with Ian and told him, like, hey, I want to do this. I love you. But at the same time, I feel like I'm leaving my dreams and my career path behind. And I wonder if she told him like that honestly and being vulnerable, would they be able to have a compromise? Why couldn't she go over there for a couple of months and then come back, to the States for the school months or however, she said she could write her dissertation everywhere. Why couldn't she have gone back and forth? Why couldn't it have been a more of a conversation? And of course, that could just happen because this is a TV show and we want to have drama. But I do think what Tracy is trying to illustrate here is that you can have it all if you're willing to be vulnerable, if you're willing to take accountability for the choices and your passions that you have in your life. But you have to have those conversations. And then with Quinn, where we can learn from Quinn is that when you're miserable, the best thing that you could do is go inward and figure out why you're miserable. You immediately cutting off your job, you immediately cutting off your man, it's literally going to just take you back to point A, like, which is yourself. So when any type of misery is coming, unless, you're definitely with somebody who is abusing you, then get the fuck away. But if you are finding yourself feeling dis-ease or feeling any type of uncomfortability, we have to realize that those feelings, feelings is nothing but emotions are nothing but energy and motion, and feelings are coming up to give us information. And so if you just take that time and get clear, okay, so why do I feel jealous about Ian? How can I do that? And I'm sure there was ways that Camille could have started on that path of finding her passions without just quitting her job like that, in turn ruining her relationship with her mom and maybe the guy as well. What we can learn from Angie is when you say that you're passionate about something, is it really about that art form or that craft, or is it about being a star? Because those are two different things. Angie was doing, like, she could have went to open mics, she could have been she could have been singing at a cruise. Like, there are different ways and paths that Angie could have been doing what she loved to do and being paid for it. But for her, she wanted that starlight. And it's like, I think internally we have to ask ourselves those questions when it comes to our dreams and seeing if we are actually on a path of them. We have to ask ourselves, am I racing for fame and fortune? Well, I'm definitely waiting for fortune. But do I want the fame, or do I just want the fortune and the freedom to do what I love to do? And then with Ty, it's just like that Saturn Returns episode. You're not going to be able to move forward until you learn from your past. And so Ty has to get comfortable having uncomfortable conversations, which to me is like, girl, you are a whole CEO of a tech company. Like, how are you still running from conversations in your personal life? And so it just shows you that those same tools and attitudes that you have in your work is not necessarily the same tools and attitudes that you're going to have in your love life. And so it's really on you to make sure that if you're succeeding in work, how can you also make sure that you're succeeding in your love life? And I think that's really what the happily ever after is about. I think as women, we put so much emphasis on work and career because that's something we have control over. But if you genuinely want to have a loving relationship, then you also have to put just as much time and effort as you would put in your career. And so just like if I want to be a writer, I have to put in my 100,000 hours in writing. If I want love, then I have to put in that same time and getting in love to know myself and to love myself. But you can't come in empty like Quinn and want somebody else to fill up your cup, because whenever you do that, you're always setting yourself up for disaster. And I think that's what we're going to see in season 2. So some open storylines to look out for season 2. I'm so interested in learning more about Camille and her mom. What the fuck is that all about? What is their relationship? Who is her mom? And how did that make Camille who she is today? Also, what is Camille going to do about her career? Because towards the end of the season, she basically told Dr. Pruitt she quit. Ty, what's going to happen between her and Brandon? And, this divorce, is he going to take half of her stuff? Angie, is she going to give up on her dream, or is she going to just keep going? And Quinn, is things going to work out between her and Elizabeth, or is that going, what's going to happen there, as well as what's going to happen with her career and her store as well? Even though this series has Camille, Megan Good as the main protagonist, I really think Grace is like a second, like, especially in season 2. I think she's the heart of this episode for me. Queen is, and I think her storyline is going to be very, very important in season 2. But I really do feel like season 1 was all about Camille and Ty, and then season 2 will get into Quinn and Angie, and who knows with season 3. I honestly feel like it's a big injustice that this series is ending, but I am happy that I was able to put my thoughts out there. All right. All right. So thank you guys so much. That is the end of this presentation. My name is Honest Am, and that was your recap or your spark notes for season 1 of Harlem. Remember, Honestly Sis is an independently owned and operated space. If you wish to donate or to support the channel, please check out www.honestlysis.com. All the way at the bottom, we have a little tip or donation bar. If you cannot help financially, consider supporting energetically. You can share this video to your favorite timeline. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can subscribe to Honestly Sis mailing list, where you can get new episodes of the Honestly Sis podcast or new articles.
That rainy day become
All right. So that is it. If you do want to go deeper, I have it on the Pop Culture Therapy playlist. If you love this, go ahead and check out that playlist. And you can find that playlist at www.honestlysis.com. Go on that free offering tabs. That'll get you right on over to the YouTube page. But before you click on off there, I want you to join our Honest Society mailing list so that you can get updates for the next live breakdowns. Make sure that you also subscribe to YouTube. The links will be all in the show notes, okay? So thank you as always for showing up, for listening, and for healing out loud with me, because as Pop Culture Therapy teaches us, every story is a mirror, and here in the Honest Society, we do not ignore, but we look deeper so that we can move forward in our lives. All right, y'all. The stories that we have up on our docket is, of course, P-Valley. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up. I know that they said that season 3, I cannot believe that P-Valley is only at season 3. Like, it feel like the show's been out for 5 years, like 5 seasons. It's so deep. But I have P-Valley, How to Die Alone, Ironheart, The Gilded Age, and of course, Agatha All Along. If you did not watch any of these series, I implore you to just go ahead, go check it out, because we are going to be diving deeper, and you are going to see these in your podcast feed. All right. As always, dream those dreams. Never let the internet rush you, and never ever let someone tell you what you cannot do. If you want to let me know what series or even what movie you think may be good for me to talk about, go ahead and drop me a note at honestlysis@gmail.com. I will be sure I add it to our list. All right. That is all I have for now. Thank you again for helping my dreams come true. Now get your ass out there and work on your own. Thank you so much, friend, for being here, and I will see you at the top. Bye-bye.